Hey everybody, welcome back to the Driveway Engineer. This is JR. Today I want to go over what stuff to buy to hit a few different power levels. If you're just starting out, it can be a little overwhelming with all the different opinions and recipes and whatnot that there are online. So these are, if you don't know where to start, these are a good place to start. Of course, you can do your research and choose whatever you want. You can make this as cheap or as expensive as you want to. But these are proven parts that people are out there using, thousands of people, and having these results. It's documented. So let's get started. The first phase is for naturally aspirated for 350 rear wheel horsepower. It's a good place to start. It's probably double what your engine you're taking out has, if you're taking out a stock 350 or whatever. This assumes that you have your LS and you have your mounts and you have all that. This is not a swap guide. This is how to make a little more power guide. You got your stock 4.8, 5.3, 6.0. It really doesn't matter. They're all good. Whatever you can afford, you'll make. You can swing through about a 30 horsepower range here from a 4.8 to a 6.0. Maybe a little more, but it's not that big a deal. I like to use the stock truck return style fuel rails. They have two lines coming out of them. The fuel pressure regulator on it is boost referenced, and they're good to, I think, 3 bar, at least 2 bar, which would be 28 psi. So there's really no need to go spend a couple $100 on aftermarket regulator, other than it looks all cool because it's red anodized and looks race car. People have made 1,000 horsepower with them, obviously. It's bigger around. You can fit an aftermarket fuel rail inside of a truck fuel rail. Is how big around they are. They're like the size of a flipping Coke can. So there's plenty of volume there. There's really no reason to change them. Some people like to use the return lift style, so they only have to run one line all the way forward, like the Corvette filter regulator is real popular. And you can do that, but it doesn't really give you room to grow later. That'll work fine with the NA setup though. But if you want to grow later, you're basically going to wind up with a fuel pressure regulator on your firewall that's $200 and a second return line that goes all the way back. So you might as well just start out there. So yeah, there's no reason to change your fuel rails pretty much ever. The stock truck manifold, if you can fit it under your hood, you should use it. It flows more than the car manifolds. The Trailblazer SS manifold flows even more, but then you get into having to adapt fuel rails and stuff like that. The Chemso 340 liter per hour fuel pump right here, it's 30 bucks. I think I put 25 on my thing. Whoops. But anyway, it comes with everything you need to fit it in an intake system if you have an EFI style tank. A lot of people want to go with an external pump. I don't know why. If you can get this in your tank, if you can get an EFI tank for your application, definitely do this. This is more than enough fuel to keep up, so you're not going to have a problem there. You can use your stock truck injectors at this power level. They're going to flow enough. It's going to be fine. They're going to be maxed out, but it's going to be fine. You don't need to change your injectors to do an NA build. For a camshaft, I recommend the Elgin 1840P, also known as the Sloppy Stage 2. It's $585 a lift. It's a single pattern cam. It's only $240. Sometimes they go on sale for a little less. This is a brand new cam. It's not a regrind. And if you see, like here's a Brian Tooley Racing cam, it's $300. Your Texas Speed cams are $350. Anything else gets a lot more money, and I don't think that they gain you that much, although nobody does back-to-back testing between an Elgin and a BTR. But for $240, you're going to have good results with it, and you're not going to have a problem. And this, again, is good. This will run all the way to 1,000 horsepower. You need valve springs to go with your new cam. I use Pac 12 18s. These are good to 600 thousandths of lift. The Elgin cam is only $585, so you're good there. These are only $140, and they work. Again, people have made 1,000 horsepower with them. For manifolds, you can just use the stock truck manifolds. If they fit your frame, just use them. They're cast just like a header. People have made 500 horsepower with them NA. They flow plenty enough. There's no need to put on long tubes, you know, other than because your uncle with his 350 4-bolt main IROC told you to. Otherwise, truck manifolds work just fine. If you can't fit truck manifolds, CPP and Hooker and a bunch of, they're all the same. They're all probably coming out of the same factory. They make cast manifolds that tuck the block really tight, and I wasn't using them before because they were really expensive, but once everybody started knocking them off, they've come down in price a lot. So I'll pull them up here. $225. You can get them even cheaper if you like. I think the G body. I think these come up for like $180. Yeah, and these are the same thing. So if you're having frame problems like I do on my C10, I can't use LS truck manifolds on my C10. And what I did was I got Trailblazer SS manifolds because they tuck real tight to the block. But look at these, they're cast just like a header, except they're cast, so they're not going to crack and break and give you a bunch of problems. So I definitely recommend these. If you can fit the truck manifolds, go ahead and use them, because you can use them as a turbo manifold later. For fuel line, I just use Parker 801-6 push lock hose. I get it at my local Parker store. No, it's not PTFE lined. No, it's not E85 rated. And yes, it works fine. You can also use, like, nitrous kits have -6 lines you can get on eBay for a few bucks with the fittings already on them. You can get them for like $30 or something like that. So if you gotta have, you know, racy braided lines and all that crap, then, you know, that's one way to get them affordably. I use the Russell screw-on adapters. I have another video on that. I'll link it in the description. They just fit right on your fuel rails. They fit right on my sending unit. And then I can screw a AN fitting to that. -6 is more than sufficient. I know some fuel scientist is going to get on here with his calculations and be like, I got a -8. -6 is fine, feed and return. I listed the price here. I have this up on the Driveway Engineer Facebook group, so you can go through the prices. And like I said, I kind of screwed up the Chemso fuel pump price by $5. So, but the total cost for phase 1 is under $700 in addition to your normal swap stuff. Well, some of this is your normal swap stuff. So for $700 you can bump it up to, you know, 350 rear wheel horsepower. Alright, so all that brings us up to phase 2, and some of this stuff is going to replace your stuff in phase 1, but for the most part this just is additional things. To get to 500 horsepower, and bear in mind that 500 rear wheel horsepower is enough to push like a notch Mustang into the 9s and an SN95 Mustang into the bottom 10s. It's a lot of power. It's not some, you know, see crap online and numbers getting thrown around and people don't realize how much power 500 rear wheel horsepower is. It's a lot. If this is your goal and your end goal and you're a reasonable person and you just want to be able to drive around and maybe light the tires up, you know, when you want to and go pretty fast and hold your own against some of the newer sports cars, 500 horsepower will do it. But it's almost, at this point, the price of some of the stuff has come down enough that it's almost worth just skipping by this to the 650. But I'm going to go over it anyway. Turbo is the cheapest way to do it. I know that you've seen on Street Outlaws that you should have a Pro Charger or whatever, but you shouldn't. You should have a turbo. You don't need to mess around with LSA superchargers. All that stuff's way more money than what it needs to be. The max speeding rod's eBay GT45. That's what I have on my C10. This turbo is $166. There's like thousands and thousands and thousands of these things out there. They're all over the internet on older stuff, making plenty of power, and you won't max it out to over 600 horsepower. There's no need to go any further than that if you don't want to, especially on a budget. So next up, for the manifold, you have a few options. You can flip the truck manifolds and weld V-bands onto them and do your own little piping if you have enough real estate up there. It's really common. A lot of people are doing this. You know, here's one where they got it lowing in the front. You get the idea. You just flip them side to side. The driver's side comes to the passenger, passenger side goes to the driver, and you weld your bands on wherever you need them. See, this guy's got his like this, and here comes his merge over here. And the cost of that is basically free. See, this guy has his down and forward, and you know, it clears everything. You got to get creative to get around the AC and the heater hoses and stuff. If you have lots of time, this is the way to go, because you can basically do it for the cost of the piping and your welding wire. You know, it doesn't cost much. If you don't want to mess around with it, and you don't want to spend, you know, 3 days or 4 days or a week, whatever it takes you, you know, if you're good at fabricating, you can just bang that right out. But if you're not, it'll take quite a while. In my opinion, the best thing going for turbo LSs are these Fowler Speed and Performance manifolds. And he has them in a few different flavors here. This one is one that he's had imported. He's having these manufactured in China. He says he goes over them personally, you know, checks them for weld cracks and stuff. It's $400. It's got a T4 flange on it. This will fit almost everything. They're really, really, really good. And it's basically the same style manifold that I have on my truck. He's got these already pre-built ones. He has these that are built out of weld pipe that he sells as a kit for $350. You get all the pipes, you weld it together yourself. He's got it tacked together. He's got these tubes coked. He blew the holes in the main part of the log, and then you just come in and weld it together yourself, and then you can set that upper height better however you want. He also sells these pre-welded, and I think they're like $500 or less. They might be $450. Don't quote me on that. He doesn't have them listed on the site. I spoke with him yesterday. I forgot to ask about that. These are a great deal though, because you can just bolt them on the same as a manifold. And I'll pull up a picture here to show you how they work. KB Racing and Trip Performance sell these also, but they're a lot more money. And there's, you know, it's a simple design. There's no reason to spend more money. What you're basically going to do with this is take your driver's side header, push it down around, and it's going to feed up into that log. Okay, the driver's side will come down and around like you have a single, and it'll feed up, and then it feeds forward, and you'll have your turbo here and your downpipe back out. They work really well. They fit almost everything. See, here's another one, you know. And you can see here it's pretty clear that the exhaust comes around, feeds forward into this, and then your turbo, this is your outlet. It'll feed back down like that. You can make 1,000 horsepower with these. There's no reason to... People want to get into these hooker, cast, goofy, stupid things. They're like $500, and it's another $150 for the crossover pipe, and then you got to mount. It doesn't clear the AC. These logs will clear the AC. Mine clears everything. I have air conditioning. It clears my frame. These hooker ones, they're kind of trash. If you just want to bolt something onto your car, get the Fowler Speed one and be done with it. Fab your own crossover. He will put the wastegate in it for you for an additional $75, and he'll sell you the crossover tubing kit for $150. But you should really just put the wastegate in it. You know, he can't really guarantee that it's going to fit and clear all your stuff. You know, you have your vehicle there. You know what hits, what fits. You know, it's kind of hard for him to do placement over the internet. It's a lot easier for you to do it. Just cut a hole in it and weld your wastegate on. So yeah, for $400, you can just have that and bolt it on. All of these, you need a wastegate. And all these 44 millimeter wastegates on eBay for like $50. There's like a billion of them. See here, it doesn't matter. Pick one. These DNA motoring ones are pretty solid. You know, a lot of people have them. Any one you get will fit and hold 14, 15 psi. That's about all you need to get to 500 tire, and it'll be fine. The snake eater, the injectors are another thing where things have kind of changed lately. Originally, people would have said get deck of 80s, 80 pounders, and they're about $350. And then people got into decapping, you know, and you can go to somebody like Eric Durr or on the Decapped Injectors Facebook page. You know, there's a few people that sell them. Dale Follett sells them. Eric Durr sells them. About 100 Tune sells them. You know, for about $200, you can get a set of flowed pre-matched decapped injectors that flow about 75, 80 pounds an hour. But these Snake Eater 150cc injectors for $42 a piece, which comes out to like $320 for a set of 8. They kind of negate all that, you know, because these are Chinese injectors, but he flows them and matches them and guarantees them. So these will support, you know, according to this calculator here on Fuel Injector Clinic, a 1500cc calculator or injector will add a 90% duty cycle on E85, will support 1295 horsepower at the wheels. Now I'd knock like 10% of that off for, you know, a fudge factor, but still 1000 horsepower at the wheels, 150cc brand new injectors. I would probably just get these. Those other options are options though, and if you're trying to save some costs, you can, you know, decap and flow your own injectors, you know, for almost free. Next up, you need a front mount intercooler, and it's hard for me to give you advice here. There's a bunch of them on eBay. I don't know what's going to fit your application, you know. Do some measurements and just get the biggest, thickest one you can, basically. You can't overcool the air. They're all about $100. Whatever you can fit, put in there. It'll be good. You know, you'll just have to watch your IATs. An eBay piping kit is again about another $100. On phase 2, there's a huge variance in price, because if you just flip truck manifolds, decap your injectors, you're only going to spend, you know, $350 on this other stuff, on a wastegate and injectors and or a wastegate and intercooler. If you just buy everything on this list that I listed, the GT45, the manifold, the injectors, then you're going to spend up to $1,000 over top of what you spent on phase 1. So you have some choices to make. You can't go wrong either way. You're going to be happy either way. For phase 3, you're just going to substitute the turbo, basically, which is why it almost makes sense to just skip phase 2 and go straight to phase 3, because the only thing that's going to hold you up from 650, 700 horsepower with everything in phase 2 is the turbo. And these 7875s from VS Racing, which is turboforless.com, they're $400, and these have been known to make, you know, I think people have made upwards of 800 horsepower with them. So you're going to make at least 700 with it on a 6-liter, you know, and less with a 4.8 or a 5.3. But they're only $400, but that's kind of the thing where you get into, you know, yeah, it's only $400, but it's also $230 more than, you know, the GT45, so it's more than twice as much. So it's a matter of perspective there. You might need a second Chemso pump. You can jam as many pumps as you need into your fuel tank basket, or you can do an inline pump to boost it if you need to, if you're not getting enough fuel, but you really won't know that until you get on the dyno. So to sum it all up in this rather long video now, 350 horsepower, you're going to spend about $700 over your base swap. To get to 500 horsepower, you're going to spend a total of about $1,050 to $1,700 over your base swap, and 650 is going to be about $1,300 to $2,100, and that $300 is just the turbo difference, basically. And like I said here in summary, there's many ways to skin a cat, and most of them work. You know, other people have their opinions, and you can buy better brand name stuff. You can spend all the money. You can do a Pro Charger, you know, whatever. A lot of these other things will make power, but this should hopefully set you on the right path. you need to set a firm goal of what you want to make for power and be realistic about like why you want. If you're not drag racing or anything, all three of these are like more than enough for you to have a good time in your vehicle. So you need to set a firm goal and, you know, lay out a plan on how to reach your goal, so you're not buying stuff 2 and 3 times. And again, I'll have this list up, and I put spring 2019 on there because, you know, things change, better parts come out. These snake eater injectors weren't even around when I built my truck the first time. If they were, I would have bought them then, you know, and I'd be ahead of the game. So, you know, be sure to double check and check back, and I'll try to keep it updated. You know, if things change significantly, if another 78, 75 turbo comes out for, you know, really cheap, and another set of snake eaters comes out for really cheap, I'll update this. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.